All right, Warriors fans, the moment we have all been waiting for has finally arrived. After weeks of speculation, rumors, and back and forth between Jonathan Kuminga's camp and the Golden State Warriors, we finally have a clear sign that the situation has reached the point of no return. And no, it is not because the two sides agreed on a new contract or even that negotiations were heating up. The real signal came in a much louder, modern way. Kuminga went ahead and deleted both his Instagram account and his X account. Now, if you have followed the NBA for a while, you already know what that means. When a young player scrubs his social media in the middle of tense negotiations or trade rumors, it almost always means one thing. He is done with that team. It is the ultimate statement without having to say a single word. And that is exactly the moment we are living in right now with Kuminga and the Warriors. For Golden State, this is both frustrating and clarifying. On the one hand, it shows that negotiations have hit a wall. There is no magic contract offer waiting around the corner that can suddenly repair the relationship. Kuminga had offers on the table, serious money. We're talking about $50 million guaranteed dollars, which for most players in his position would be a life-changing deal. He even floated that he might accept a shorter contract, something like 3 years for $60 million with a player option. But let's be real for a second. That was never going to happen. Not after seeing what other players of his generation, like Josh Giddey, have already secured on the open market. Giddey walked away with $100 million over 4 years guaranteed. When a player like Kuminga, who sees himself in that same category of young, developing stars, watches someone else cash in like that, the idea of taking less money and more risk simply does not add up. So whether he was saying it to save face or to apply more pressure, the fact is Kuminga was never going to settle. He is betting on himself, and in his mind, deleting social media is the loudest way to let the Warriors know, trade me or lose me for nothing. And honestly, from his perspective, the gamble makes sense. He is only 22 years old, drafted back in 2021, which makes him one of the younger players already entering this type of contract standoff. Even if he takes a shorter deal somewhere else, even if he has to play through a 2-year bridge contract with a player option, by the time he hits free agency again, he will still be just 25. That is prime age in the NBA, still young enough to be considered part of a team's future while already experienced enough to play a bigger role. If you're Kuminga and you believe in your ability to grow into that attacking, isolation-heavy, slashing kind of scorer, you know there's going to be demand for your skill set in 3 years. It is not like the league is suddenly going to stop needing athletic wings who can get to the basket and create mismatches. So from his side, the risk is calculated. From the Warriors' side, though, it leaves them in a tough spot. Because once a player draws that line in the sand, the team no longer has the leverage. Golden State cannot simply ride this out and hope it all smooths over. The only real options left are to trade him now or watch him walk away for nothing later. The good news, if there is any in this situation, is that at least everything is clear. There is no more pretending that negotiations are ongoing or that a compromise is around the corner. The Warriors front office, from ownership down to general manager Mike Dunleavy Jr., now knows exactly what has to be done. You either sign him to a deal he clearly does not want, or you move him for value while you still can. And if you're looking around the league, there are teams that make sense. We have already heard about interest from the Sacramento Kings and the Phoenix Suns. The Miami Heat are also hovering as a team that loves taking on young, athletic players and turning them into playoff weapons. Even teams like the Washington Wizards, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Charlotte Hornets could jump into the conversation. The market is there, and it is up to the Warriors to strike while they still have some control. Now, if you're Golden State, the focus cannot just be on moving Kuminga. It has to be on what comes back. You cannot afford to lose a player of his age and upside for a single rotational piece. If you're dealing him within the Western Conference, it is even more important that the return package includes multiple assets. That means players who can contribute right away and draft picks that give you flexibility moving forward. Because as much as everyone loves first-rounders, the second round in today's NBA is more valuable than people realize. The league's talent pool is exploding, whether it is through college basketball, European leagues, or new development programs in Africa and elsewhere. as scouting gets sharper and international competition keeps producing NBA-ready talent. Those second-round picks start to look more like NFL draft steals. Cheap, flexible ways to stockpile depth without breaking the salary cap. For a team like the Warriors, who will soon be staring at massive financial questions once Stephen Curry's window closes, having the kind of draft capital could mean everything. And speaking of that window, let's not forget the bigger picture here. Golden State knows the dynasty as we knew it is reaching its final chapters. In a couple of years, so many contracts will be expiring that they will have a crater of cap space. The long-term plan, whether it is realistic or not, is to take a swing at players like Giannis Antetokounmpo or Nikola Jokic. Now, are the odds of actually landing those names high? Probably not. But when you're a franchise with the pedigree of the Warriors, coached by someone like Steve Kerr, who has Olympic experience and a track record of guiding superstars to multiple championships, you at least have a seat at the table. Kerr may not be the best at developing raw talent. His critics have said that for years. But what he does excel at is managing egos and getting stars to work together in a system that wins at the highest level. You can argue that not every coach could have led this roster to 6 finals appearances, but Kerr did. And if the Warriors' strategy moving forward is less about development and more about attracting established names, then they need to have the assets and the flexibility to make those moves. Trading Kuminga the right way is step one in setting that up. Of course, there's a downside here, too. The Warriors have let this situation drag on far longer than it should have. The moment those negotiations started stalling months ago, Golden State should have already been lining up serious trade packages. Instead, they gambled on the hope that Kuminga might soften his stance or accept a slightly smaller deal. That delay has cost them leverage, and now every team around the league knows Kuminga wants out. That lowers the asking price. That shrinks the list of options. And that creates a risk that Golden State ends up taking pennies on the dollar compared to what they could have gotten earlier. That is the bad part of this whole saga, the lack of decisiveness from the Warriors front office. Still, even with that mistake, the reality is that the Warriors have no choice but to act now. And once they do, the rest of the offseason becomes a lot clearer. They have open roster spots, 6 of them, which is one of the highest numbers in the league right now. That gives them room to get creative with trade exceptions, with free agent signings, and with smaller deals around the edges. We are already hearing about potential names like Kelly Oubre Jr. or even international players who could slide into the rotation. Veterans like Malcolm Brogdon or Alex Len could hit the market and be available for the right price. The Warriors, more than almost any team, are set up to take advantage of roster crunches around the league, where other teams are forced to cut good players just to get under the limit. That is where Golden State can strike, adding depth and versatility without burning through their limited financial resources. So here we are. Jonathan Kuminga has made his move loud and clear by wiping his social media clean. The Warriors now have the clarity they need. It is trade or nothing. And while the situation is messy, it also presents an opportunity for Golden State to reshape its roster, collect assets, and prepare for the next chapter of this dynasty. The big question now is where Kuminga will land and what the Warriors can get in return to make sure they do not walk away empty-handed. When you look at the story of Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors, it is impossible not to notice how symbolic this moment feels for the entire franchise. Back in 2022, when the team lifted its most recent championship trophy, Kuminga was just a rookie. He was raw, full of athleticism, and seen as part of that next-generation core alongside Moses Moody and James Wiseman that was supposed to extend the dynasty. The plan was simple. Mix the brilliance of Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green with a wave of younger talent who would eventually take over the keys. Fast forward 2 years, and that vision has completely unraveled. Wiseman is long gone. Moody has struggled to find consistent minutes. And now Kuminga, who was supposed to be the brightest of the bunch, is essentially forcing his way out. It is a reminder that building dynasties is never clean, never easy, and rarely follows the script a front office imagines. From Kuminga's perspective, his frustration is understandable. He has had flashes of brilliance where you could see the outlines of a future star. Explosive drives to the rim, highlight dunks, the ability to guard multiple positions. All the raw tools are there. But in the Warriors system, especially under Steve Kerr, minutes are earned not just by talent, but by understanding a very specific role. The motion offense, the cutting, the ball movement, the constant off-ball reads. It is not an easy system for young players to master. Kerr has long preferred veterans who can execute without hesitation, which has often left Kuminga glued to the bench during critical stretches. For a player who believes he is ready for more, that kind of treatment becomes frustrating very quickly. You start looking around the league and seeing guys you were drafted with getting bigger roles, putting up bigger numbers and signing bigger contracts, and suddenly you feel stuck. That is the tension that has been boiling beneath the surface in Golden State for the past year. But while the player's side makes sense, the team's reality is just as complicated. Golden State cannot simply hand over the offense to Kuminga and let him learn through mistakes. They are still trying to win right now. Stephen Curry may still be brilliant, but he is also 36 years old. Draymond Green has battled suspensions and injuries, and Klay Thompson is no longer the two-way force he once was. This is not a rebuilding team. It is a group clinging to the final years of a legendary run. Every possession matters. Every role has to fit. And in that environment, a player like Kuminga, who thrives in isolation and prefers to attack the basket on his own terms, does not always mesh with the precision Kerr demands. That is why, despite his growth and potential, the front office has reached this breaking point. They cannot serve two masters, developing a young star while chasing another ring with veterans. Something has to give, and now we know what it is going to be. What makes the situation more intriguing is the range of possibilities on the trade market. If Golden State sends him to a team like Miami, the fear is obvious. He could flourish in their culture, thrive under Eric Spoelstra, and become exactly the kind of two-way wing the Warriors hoped he would be. Imagine him cutting alongside Bam Adebayo, crashing the glass, and learning how to channel his energy within Miami's demanding system. That is a scary thought for the Warriors, but it is also the cost of doing business. If they deal him within the Western Conference, say to Sacramento or Phoenix, the risk becomes even higher. Suddenly, you are not just trading away a young asset. You're potentially building up a rival you might face in the playoffs. That is why the front office has to be very strategic here. They need to find a return that not only softens the loss of Kuminga, but also fits the unique timeline of this team. In that sense, players like Royce O'Neal or Nick Richards become interesting pieces. They are not stars, but they fill clear needs. O'Neal provides defense, shooting, and veteran toughness, the kind of glue guy Kerr loves. Richards gives you a young, athletic big who can rebound and protect the rim, something the Warriors have lacked behind Kevin Looney. Add in draft capital, especially second-rounders, and suddenly the Warriors have flexibility. They can flip those picks later for another veteran, or they can gamble on finding undervalued talent in a deepening pool of prospects. It may not be as flashy as holding on to Kuminga and hoping he becomes a star, but it is practical. And practicality is often what keeps a franchise competitive when the window begins to close. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. Shockwaves are rippling through the basketball world as whispers turn into feverish speculation. NIKOLA JOKIĆ, the European powerhouse who has dominated the Eurobasket like few others, might be on the verge of an NBA seismic shift. The rumor mill is ablaze with talk that the Serbian maestro is headed to the Golden State Warriors, a move that could completely redraw the league's balance of power. Sources close to the situation suggest that Jokic's arrival in the Bay Area wouldn't just be a high-profile signing. It would be a statement, a daring gamble that could redefine the very notion of team building in the NBA. The idea alone has sent fans and pundits alike into a frenzy. Imagine Jokic, with his uncanny vision, silky passing, and unshakable dominance in the post, lining up alongside the Warriors' already lethal arsenal. The Warriors, known for their precision shooting and fast-paced offense, could suddenly possess an unthinkable versatility. a true generational talent capable of orchestrating the game from the center position, creating opportunities not just for himself, but for an entire roster that thrives on movement and spacing. Analysts are already speculating on how opposing defenses would even begin to adjust. Could this be the blueprint for the next dynasty, or is it a high-risk move that could disrupt team chemistry? Meanwhile, European basketball enthusiasts are practically vibrating with anticipation. Jokic has been nothing short of monumental on the international stage, carving through defenses, delivering jaw-dropping performances, and earning accolades that cement his status as one of the premier talents of his generation. The thought of him exporting that magic to the NBA, specifically to a team as high-profile as the Warriors, has triggered a whirlwind of conjecture. Fans are debating everything. How will his unique skill set blend with Golden State's three-point heavy style? Will he transform their offense into an even more unguardable machine, or will the adjustments take time and patience? Inside the league, whispers abound that front offices are already recalculating their strategies. Rival teams may need to rethink everything from defensive schemes to trade ambitions. Jokic's potential move is not just a transaction. It's a tectonic shift in talent distribution. The NBA landscape, already unpredictable, could soon enter a new era where conventional wisdom about positions and roles is thrown out the window. As the rumors persist and the drama builds, one thing is clear. If Nikola Jokic does indeed land in Golden State, the world of basketball will never look the same again. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.